like canoes, fitted with sails and loaded with certain leaves which possessed the valuable property of expelling devils. While the young people were thus engaged, the exorcists and the elders sat in a house singing songs by turns, but often they would come forth, pace the beach armed with rods, and forbid the devil to enter the village. The fourth day of the solemnity bore a name which means expelling the devil by sails. In the evening all the villagers assembled, the women bringing baskets of ashes and bunches of devil expelling leaves. These leaves were then distributed to everybody, old and young. When all was ready, a band of robust men, attended by a guard of exorcists, carried one of the cars down to the sea on the right side of the village graveyard and set it floating in the water. As soon as they had returned, another band of men carried the other car to the beach and floated it similarly in the sea to the left of the graveyard. The demon-laden barks being now launched, the women threw ashes from the shore, and the whole crowd shouted, saying, "Fly away, devil, fly away! Never come again!" The wind and the tide being favourable, the canoes sailed quickly away, and that night all the people feasted together with great joy, because the devil had departed in the direction of Chaura. A similar expulsion of devils takes place once a year in other Nicobar villages, but the ceremonies are held at different times in different places. Amongst many of the aboriginal tribes of China, a great festival is celebrated in the third month of every year. It is held by way of a general rejoicing over what the people believe to be a total annihilation of the ills of the past 12 months. The destruction is supposed to be effected in the following way. A large earthenware jar filled with gunpowder, stones, and bits of iron is buried in the earth. A train of gunpowder, communicating with the jar, is then laid, and a match being applied, the jar and its contents are blown up. The stones and bits of iron represent the ills and disasters of the past year, and the dispersion of them by the explosion is believed to remove the ills and disasters themselves. The festival is attended with much revelling and drunkenness. At Old Calabar on the coast of Guinea, the devils and ghosts are, or used to be, publicly expelled once in 2 years. Among the spirits thus driven from their haunts are the souls of all the people who died since the last lustration of the town. About 3 weeks or a month before the expulsion, which according to one account takes place in the month of November, rude effigies representing men and animals, such as crocodiles, leopards, elephants, bullocks, and birds, are made of wickerwork or wood, and being hung with strips of cloth and bedizened with gewgaws, are set before the door of every house. About 3 o'clock in the morning of the day appointed for the ceremony, the whole population turns out into the streets, and proceeds with a deafening uproar and in a state of the wildest excitement to drive all lurking devils and ghosts into the effigies, in order that they may be banished with them from the abodes of men. For this purpose, bands of people roam through the streets, knocking on doors, firing guns, beating drums, blowing on horns, ringing bells, clattering pots and pans, shouting and hallooing with might and main, in short, making all the noise it is possible for them to raise. The hubbub goes on till the approach of dawn, when it gradually subsides and ceases altogether at sunrise. By this time the houses have been thoroughly swept, and all the frightened spirits are supposed to have huddled into the effigies or their fluttering drapery. In these wicker figures are also deposited the sweepings of the houses and the ashes of yesterday's fires. Then the demon-laden images are hastily snatched up, carried in tumultuous procession down to the brink of the river, and thrown into the water to the tuck of drums. The ebb tide bears them away seaward, and thus the town is swept clean of ghosts and devils for another 2 years. Similar annual expulsions of embodied evils are not unknown in Europe. On the evening of Easter Sunday, the gypsies of southern Europe take a wooden vessel, like a bandbox, which rests cradle-wise on 2 cross pieces of wood. In this they place herbs and simples, together with the dried carcass of a snake or lizard which every person present must have touched with his fingers. The vessel is then wrapped in white and red wool, carried by the oldest man from tent to tent, and finally thrown into running water, not, however, before every member of the band has spat into it once, and the sorceress has uttered some spell over it. They believe that by performing this ceremony they dispel all the illnesses that would otherwise have afflicted them in the course of the year, and that if any one finds the vessel and opens it out of curiosity, he and his will be visited by all the maladies which the others have escaped. The scapegoat by means of which the accumulated ills of a whole year are publicly expelled is sometimes an animal. For example, among the Garos of Assam, besides the sacrifices for individual cases of illness, there are certain ceremonies which are observed once a year by a whole community or village, and are intended to safeguard its members from dangers of the forest and from sickness and mishap during the coming 12 months. The principal of these is the Asongtata ceremony. Close to the outskirts of every big village a number of stones may be noticed stuck into the ground, apparently without order or method. These are known by the name of asong, and on them is offered the sacrifice which the Asongtata demands. The sacrifice of a goat takes place, and a month later that of the langur, or a bamboo rat, is considered necessary. The animal chosen has a rope fastened round its neck, and is led by 2 men, one on each side of it, to every house in the village. It is taken inside each house in turn, the assembled villagers meanwhile beating the walls from the outside to frighten and drive out any evil spirits which may have taken up their residence within. The round of the village having been made in this manner, the monkey or rat is led to the outskirts of the village, killed by a blow of a dowel, which disembowels it, and then crucified on bamboos set up in the ground. Round the crucified animal, long sharp bamboo stakes are placed, which form chevaux de frise round about it. These commemorate the days when such defences surrounded the villages on all sides to keep off human enemies, and they are now a symbol to ward off sickness and dangers to life from the wild animals of the forest. The langur required for the purpose is hunted down some days before, but should it be found impossible to catch one, a brown monkey may take its place. A hulak may not be used. Here the crucified ape or rat is the public scapegoat, which by its vicarious sufferings and death relieves the people from all sickness and mishap in the coming year. Again, on one day of the year, the Bhotias of Juhar in the western Himalayas take a dog, intoxicate him with spirits and bhang or hemp, and having fed him with sweetmeats, lead him round the village and let him loose. Then they chase and kill him with sticks and stones, and believe that, when they have done so, no disease or misfortune will visit the village during the year. In some parts of Breadalbane, it was formerly the custom on New Year's Day to take a dog to the door, give him a bit of bread, and drive him out, saying, "Get away, you dog! Whatever death of men or loss of cattle would happen to this house to the end of the present year, may it all light on your head." On the Day of Atonement, which was the 10th day of the 7th month, the Jewish high priest laid both his hands on the head of a live goat, confessed over it all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and having thereby transferred the sins of the people to the beast, sent it away into the wilderness. The scapegoat upon whom the sins of the people are periodically laid may also be a human being. At Onitsha on the Niger, 2 human beings used to be annually sacrificed to take away the sins of the land. The victims were purchased by public subscription. All persons who, during the past year, had fallen into gross sins, such as incendiarism, theft, adultery, witchcraft, and so forth, were expected to contribute 28 mugas, or a little over 2 pounds. The money thus collected was taken into the interior of the country, and expended in the purchase of two sickly persons,